Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of Gann swing chart webinars. We're going to really dig in and look at a lot of the coding behind some of those ideas I presented last time. What we're going to do is, I'm just going to build this from scratch so you can see the process that I would go through. Now, even if you're not necessarily interested in Gann swing charts and there's other ideas that you want to work with, this is going to give you just the building blocks of how to go about it, how to get from an idea through to signal testing. But we're going to run through a couple of ideas and see if we can repeat those ideas that we talked about last time. So first of all, let's just jump in. I've got a chart of BHP here in front of me. First thing I want to do is jump in here and change the color scheme to swing relations because that makes it really easy for me to see the higher bars and the lower bars and all of that. Now, let's throw on our Gann swing, if I spell it right, chart overlay. So we'll put that one on. Again, I'm just going to make that 2 bar or more thickness so it's a little bit easier. I don't really need a color scheme on this, so let's just make them both black. So now I can see where the swings are going. Now by default, I have mine saved as a 2 bar swing using the next bar, and I just want to turn on use inside. Remember we had that rule that if it's a multiple bar swing, we can actually use that first inside bar as part of the count. And so just turning that on there as well. So right, I've got my swing chart here, and we can sort of look for those couple of conditions and things that Gann would talk about now. One of the most simple ones, let me just come back down here and find it. We've been going down. What we want to find is when a swing top has been taken out. So we want to get this price here when the swing's taken out. Now this is pretty tricky scripting. I spent quite a bit of time on this, just getting it right, getting the nuances of all this right. So let's go and jump in. The first thing I want to do is actually just work with a show plot, because we've got starts of swings and we've got ends of swings and we can do offsets on them, and they all mean something a little bit different. So I want to show you this first. So if I do a show plot, and that'll do a script tool over the top of my chart here. And what I'm going to do is, let's just start, and I'm just going to say G1. I'm just going to use a variable called G1, just making that up. And it's going to be Gann swing, and I need to put in all my settings here. So I want to have this as a 2 bar, using the next bar, turn on use inside, and that's my swing chart there. The next thing I want to do is I want to reference the swing ends. Now there's 2 ways that I can do this. Let me do it this way. I'm going to do plot 1 equals G1, so our Gann swing dot swing end. And so this will be a green line. And now I'm going to do plot 2 equals swing end, again if I can spell correctly, on G1. And so we've got 2 different things. They're both swing ends, but they're just subtly different. So let me just put that on, and let's jump in and have a look at this. What you can see, so the green line, remember, was G1 dot swing end. And what happens is that this is tracking bar by bar where the swing end would have been for that bar. Because of course, right here in this one right in front of us, we can look at this and say, oh, the swing went from this price down here at 16.28 all the way up here to 18.35. The fact is, we didn't know that that swing was up until we had 2 higher bars, and that occurred here. And so you can see that the swing end for these first 2 bars, it was still down here. It wasn't until we posted the second high that our swing end turned. We had a new swing go up, and this was the end. Next bar, the end still stayed the same because we had a small retracement. Still the same, still the same. Now here, we finally have a new high, and so the swing extends up. So that's what this green line's giving us. Now the blue line, which is the swing end of the Gann swing, so we had the swing end out the front, what that's doing is it's just telling us straight out with the swings where was the end and if I'd done swing start, it would be where was the start. Now we use both of them, and we use them in different ways, because while the first green line would be fantastic to use, because that's a bar by bar calculation, if I apply an offset to that, I'm only going back, let's say, 2 bars. So if I said I wanted to apply a number 2 offset to that at this value here, I'm just coming back to this value here. I'm going back 1, 2 bars, and that's the value I would have. But if I wanted to know what the total or the high of the swing, or the end of the swing, I should say, 2 swings back, then I need to use the blue version because it will tell me what those values are. I know it's a little bit confusing, and I apologize for that. We've tried many ways to work around this, but it all depends exactly on what you're doing as well. So we're going to be using a little bit of a mixture. Sometimes we're going to be talking about using the actual swings, because Gann's rules, it didn't matter about the time that the swings took. All it was has a previous swing top been taken out? So we need to ignore all the time for that. So for the most part, we'll actually use the blue line, but I just wanted to explain that difference to you. So just to show you that again in the scripting. So the green line here was our Gann swings dot swing end, and that's a bar by bar version. And then version 2 of it is swing end of G1, where we put G1 in the parentheses there, and that is just looking at the actual swing list. And so we can work with that. I'm just going to copy all of this because I'm going to use a lot of this as we continue on. What I might do, I'm just going to open up the structure panel, and let's just hide that one. We're just going to turn that off for the moment. Right, so what we're looking for again is we want the swing to be down, and we want to get the break of this level here. So let's go and put a horizontal trend line in there. Just type HL. I want to put on my price lock, so I get right on the top there. That's the break that we're looking for, and I don't want to extend left. I'm just going to extend right. So we're hoping that this bar here, we want to get a signal of that, because then we can go do some quantitative testing on that idea. So what we're going to do is let's do a show bar. Remember, if you've watched any of our signal testing videos, the place I begin, first I always start on a chart. I want to look at the condition that I'm working with. I then want to start refining it and working with it, and then I want to find a way of getting a signal. Now a show bar, if I can get a show bar to happen or to occur on that very bar that I'm interested in, then I can just take that straight into the signal tester and know that I've got it right. But as a technical analyst, I want to observe this first before I go on and just rush straight into the quantitative testing. So let's jump in here. We're going to be doing our scripting again. I'm just going to paste in what I copied before. And I just want to get, let's just, instead of calling that plot 2, I'm going to call that E1 for end 1. So I want the swing ends, and I've got that there. Now the context of what I'm after here is that I want to know when this swing here is greater than, when the high of the bars cross above the previous swing end. So remember, and this is again a really tricky part about swing charts and swing chart analysis. While this is building, we don't actually have our highest swing yet. We don't actually, you may have had 2 bars, but typically, while it's building, we don't. And so what we want to do is look back at the previous swing. So for this green bar here, that first higher bar, the last swing we have is this swing down. That's the most recent swing. So the one previous to that would be an offset of 1. So that's what we're going to look for here. So let's just say that we want to know, and I'm going to do this as conditions. So condition 1 equals the higher the bar, I want that to, let's say, we can try cross above. I may have to do greater than, because sometimes these can be a little bit fiddly when you're mixing swings, which are, you know, they're not for every bar, and then something like high, which is for every bar. So we'll try crossing above, but I may change that to greater than. So let's say the high crosses above, and we want the ends of our swing, and I want to go back 1. And let's just do C1 for now, and say that's what we want to test on. Hit apply to that. Okay, so we've got a couple of results here. We've got the one we want, which is this one, but we also have some others that have come in. So we've got to do some extra filtering to try and knock that out. What's actually happened here, what I can see is that as the swings flip, because of course the swing end was down here, oh sorry, the swing end was here before the new swing got posted, and then as that bar came in, it posted a new swing down and the signal got triggered. So we need to filter those out. So let's go in and let's edit our script a little bit more, and let's add another condition. So we're going to say condition 2. So what I want to do here is I want to make sure that the swing before is greater than the swing before that. I want to test the direction. I want to make sure the direction of the swings is going in the right way, and that they're higher swings. So let's just do this. We're just going to say E1 and 2 swings back has got to be less than, I've got to get the logic right in my head on this one, 1 back. And so we're going to say we want condition C1 and C2, and I think, let me just see, let's just see. Oh no, we still got it. We've gotten rid of those other ones. We've got our condition here. Okay, so now we're doing a bit more filtering. Well, actually, let me see. So that's true, we've taken out that top. We've got another bar that's taken out that top. So we've got multiple bars there. Here again, we've taken out that top. That's fine, but what we really wanted to do was only know after we've been on a downward trajectory. A bit of a tongue twister there again. So what we're going to do is we're going to just put in another rule to make sure that we've had, let's say, 3 descending tops leading into this before we get here. So we want swing 1 end, swing 3 end, and swing 5 end to be descending. So let's add that to our criteria, and we'll make a condition 3, and let's go to E1 5, oh hang on, put that in the square brackets, E1 5 must be greater than E1 3, and actually we'll do this with an and E1 3 must be greater than E1 1. Now, I just, force of habit as a programmer, I always want to put parentheses around logic statements. Technically, you don't need to. The AND should behave in that way. But when you come back and have to edit a script or look at a script and try and understand what you've done, I just find it so much easier to have them in parentheses, because then I know that it's that whole thing is going to get processed by itself, and its result is then ANDed with the next parenthesis block. So let's just do that, C1, C2, and C3, and hit apply to that. And we still have this one, but we don't have our others now. Oh, hang on, don't want to scale. So we've got a couple of signals there at the end of a down run, down again. Great, so we've got some really nice signals there that we can work with now and do some testing and see what sort of results we get. Oh, a bit of a cluster there. That's okay, we can actually work around that. What I might do is throw in a no repeat. You know, we've had the break, went under, broke again, went under, broke again, and so that's why we got this bit of a cluster here. So let's just go and throw a no repeat in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to make all of this equal to C4, and we're going to do no repeat on C4, and for 7 days is the default. That's fine. Hit apply to that, got rid of that cluster. Great, we've got some nice signals to work with. So what we're going to do is, I just want to now save that script as Gann swing trend up. Gann swing trend up. So we're trying to pick up that idea of when does the swing change from Gann's perspective. You know, he said it's only when it breaks out of that previous high that he would classify the trend as being up. And again, as technical analysts, that's what we want to know. We want to know when the trend is up. So we've got that, and we can now let's do a quick test and say, okay, well, what's that going to give us? So if I just want to clone one, I was working on that one this morning, so I know it's set up. Again, you want to know about the testing, the range and a lot of the theory about signal testing, go and watch our signal testing webinars at optima.com/proweb. You're probably watching on this page now, but go and check them out. So I'm going to spare everybody the detail of going through that again. Let's do Gann swing turn and SPX. It's all set up for the S&P 500, so I'm going to leave that. I'm just going to change my script to my Gann swing trend up, hit apply on that, and everything else should be fine. I want to go a bit more than 21 periods though, because Gann swings are typically a bit of a longer term idea. Let's just take that out to 120 and hit test signal on that. So we're just running this one quickly. So this is now searching all the S&P 500 codes over about 8-9 years of history, looking for those instances. Found 7,500 signals, as you would expect, because, you know, for this signal to have been triggered, the market's gone up, it's gone back down again and come back up. And when you look to the left of T0, that's exactly what we see. Markets come down, gone back up again, we've gotten our signal. What happens afterwards? Well, it's good to see. This is actually a really nice signal. Bit of momentum there early on, a lot of gain in the first 4 or 5 days, and then just continuing on. The market in general is fairly flat over that period. And so the red line, which is giving us our alpha idea, the difference between those two lines, is looking good as well. In the next Optima, so this red line is just the straight difference between those two lines. In the next major update, that's probably due in the latter half of 2017, there'll actually be a relative calculation where it actually takes, for every single trade, it takes the difference between the signal and the benchmark and then averages those up. And so that's yielding some interesting results as well. Probability of gain already over 60 on this one simple swing chart idea. You know, anytime we're doing this, we're looking for over 60, and that's just with no other filters. Mean return over probably 4 or 5 months, or actually probably closer to 6 months, is 6.5%. And median return, you know, all of that's looking good, almost 2 to 1 on reward to risk. And, you know, it's a nice distribution that we're seeing there. So that's the simple Gann swing turn. Now we can get into a lot more detail on how to do that. We can get into a lot more about looking for that third case, you know, where we added in, you know, that the swing chart. Well, actually, let's do it. Let's just add this in. Let's just say that we also want to know when the weekly swing chart is also up. And we want to use that as a bit of an extra filter, using the 2 time frames to confirm what's going on. So what we can do is, let's come in here. So what we want to do is we want to take our Gann swing, we want to get a weekly version of it. I'm not going to do 2 bar, I'm just going to leave it at 1 bar because I just want to know, is the weekly up, is the weekly down? I don't need the longer filters on that one. So let's just add that. We're going to add that as G2. So we go G2 equals Gann swing, and this time inside the parentheses, I want to do week, open and close parentheses. Whenever we put something right at the front of one of these functions, that becomes the data source instead of the chart that we place this tool or this script on. So when I do week, Gann swing week, it's the results of the week function that go into the Gann swing function. Now, because week has nothing inside the parentheses, it's just going to use the data. It's going to take the daily data and convert that into weekly data for us. So I've got that. I just wanted to use next bar, leave it at 1, and I think that's all. I'll get rid of that extra comma that I added, and let's say that. And so I want another condition down here. I already used C4, so I'm going to have to use C5. C5 equals G2 is up. Simple as that. I want to know, is it going up, is it going down? And let's add that over here, and G2, and sorry, C5. Condition 5. So we hit apply to that. All right, we've got some nice ones there. You know what? I often, again, whenever I do this, I want to confirm, I want to know that I've got this right. And so what I'm going to do is a show plot. Let me do this one. Sorry, show view. Show view puts the plot in a new view. So let's go show view. Come down here, and we're going to add this one and put that script in there. Oh, oops, if I copied it right. Gann swing, all of that, and do is up again. And that can be our script for this one. So now I'm seeing those periods where the weekly is up. And I can give that a name. I can come along here and say, right, let's go weekly swing is up. And so that gets labeled for me. One thing I love doing with these as well, particularly when I'm these zones and I want to find out, is this right or not? I can just grab, drag, and then drop. Maybe even drop the transparency a little bit. And so I can see what's going on. I can confirm, yep, those signals are all happening while we've got the green zone, so the weekly is up. I know that I've got my script right there. So let's go back to our signal tester. This should have updated automatically because it was a saved script. It did. So let's test again and see what we get. I think it was about 6.5% before with 60% probability of gain. They're the two numbers that I always look at first. So let's see what we get. So now we're at 61, so we added nearly 61.9. So we nearly added 2% probability of gain, 7.37. So we added 1% over the 120 trading days, what, 5-6 months, just by using that extra filter. We went from around 7,000 signals down to 2,000. So obviously over that 9-year period, you know, we definitely reduced a lot of our trading activity, but increased our profitability as well. So, you know, that's really interesting. Now, one of the things that I mentioned last time that I've got to get into for you is actually to talk about this from a breadth point of view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a copy of this script. I'm going to remove the, hang on, let's just get rid of this. I don't want that. I want the show bar. I'm going to remove the weekly filter because I don't really want that in there. And let's get rid of C5. Let's delete that. And let's just go and, oh, backspace, not delete. And there we go. So that should be still fine. Yep, it is. Let's just have a look at that. All right. So what we can do now is I want the opposite of this, because for breadth, I want to know, is my security in an uptrend or is it downtrend? So I've got these signals which I could use as saying, okay, BHP is now in an uptrend, but how am I going to determine when BHP is in a downtrend? And so that's what I've got to build the opposite of this. So I'm going to take all of this. I'm just going to hit, actually no, I'll save script as, and let's call it Gann swing trend down. So we've got Gann swing trend up, Gann swing trend down. Still want to use the end. This time I want to use the low. So I'm going to say the low crosses below and change U to low. I want the low there. Really, this is fairly simple because I just need to reverse the direction of my greater than and less than signs. And that one there. And all of that. Now, if I apply that, that gives me my low signals. And that looks like it is right. 3 swings up, 3 swings up, 3 swings up, and we get a break. Okay, so now I've got my two conditions. So what I can do is use those together in one script. Now this is really a handy little feature. So introduced in Optima 64 was the ability to reference other scripts within scripts. Do be careful with this because it can get a little bit recursive and tricky. So you can't just reference a script, but then in that script reference back again and things like that. So you do need to watch out for that. But what I can say is U1 is a variable, and I'm going to reference a script in that. And let's go and grab our Gann swing trend up. And so we do that again for down. So D1 equals script. And let's go and get Gann swing trend down. And what I'm going to use is a little script function that we have called switch. So when we have multiple signals that happen and they mean a condition has changed, so like trend is up, well, we ignore all the others until we get the condition that the trend is down. So how we do this is we say switch, and I'm going to say U1, so my trend up is my on condition, and then D1 is my off condition. And hit apply to that, and we get this result here. So we've got a nice shaded area. Let's go and put that there. I'm going to just throw on, again, just for clarity's sake, a show bar again, set its script to the Gann swing trend up. Hang on, what did I do? Did I hit the right one? Gann swing trend up. And I think I added it to the wrong security. Let me go back up here. I added it to the actual the show view instead of to the data chart. But you know, with this structure panel, I can just drag things around, so that's handy. So signal comes, we've got a swing up. Another up signal comes, gets ignored because we've already in an up state. We haven't had a down state as of that time. Now, you know, we could argue maybe my condition of 3 higher lows is too restrictive, and I'm sort of looking at that like, oh, that's, yeah, I probably should have stopped out. So there's a bit of refining that I should do to maybe improve that, but nevertheless you get the idea here that we have this switch. I can now use this switch as the input to breadth. Remember that market breadth is, you know, the typical advanced decline. How many stocks on the S&P are in advancing? How many stocks on the S&P are declining? And when we see that there's a lot of stocks declining in value, it's usually a pretty good indicator that there's a correction on the way. So I can use this as my way of doing that. So I come along here and let's go to market breadth. Now, not everybody may have breadth. I know it's in some of the more professional editions that we have. So let's just go new, add item, and we're going to say new. And I want to do a script. I'm going to, actually what I should have done, let me come out of that just for a moment. I should have saved this script because I don't want to have to write that again. So let's save script as Gann swing trend change. All right, so that's saved there. Now we can go to our breadth. So data, market breadth. We've got this one here. Let's go to add this, and let's come in here, Gann swing trend change, hit apply. So that's in there. SP 500 Gann swing, I'm just going to call that. Make up a code, SPX, Gann swing breadth, that'll do. Now, be very careful of this. Our breadth by default starts on last bar. That's not very helpful. We want to go back over history. Now, of course, this is subject to survivorship bias. We've talked about that plenty of times. The next major update of Optima will have ways that we can deal with that. But for now, that's just something that we live with. Just got to be aware of that. 10 years we've got there. We want to include the S&P 500. So that's fine. And we're going to do a percent. What percentage of stocks are above or in an uptrend? And let's say build breadth. So it's now opening up all of those S&P 500 codes. Actually, there's about 600-700 codes that are in the database because it knows what stocks were there at different points in time and is using all of those. So that will just take a little bit longer as that comes through. But you can also hit auto update, which means that on a daily basis, it will make sure that that breadth file is up to date. So here we have it. So let's now jump in here. Actually, what I'm going to do, SPX GS breadth, I'm going to do it this way. I could double click on that and open the chart, but I want to first open up the SPX. So let's go SPX in World Indices. Let's just right click. We're going to go new window. I'm going to go and jump in here and grab my SPX 500 out of the breadth, market breadth section, and we can see the results that we have here. Now looking at that, I'm sort of seeing that we've got some, all peaking. So I'm looking for thresholds. I want thresholds to turn on that when I'm going to say market's in an uptrend based on the breadth, and then also a threshold for turning off. And so if I go 70 and 30, that's probably a good threshold there. So let's do that. I'm going to right click here and let's do a show view on here. We go to that. I'm just going to do a switch statement. Now, I've done a lot of scripting in this session, probably more than I normally would. You want to learn more about scripting. Darren Hawkins has got 3 fantastic courses. They're free. Just go to learn.optima.com. Make sure that you go through those and you'll learn everything that you need to know about scripting because it really is. Optima, as powerful as it is, if you really want to get the most out of the software, you need to get in and learn how to do some really basic Excel style scripting. So let's jump in here. So switch, we're going to use the closing value because we want the closing value of that breadth. So close crosses above 75, let's say. Let's just do 70. Close crosses above 70 is our on condition, and close crosses below 30 as our off condition. Hit apply to that. And what I want to do is drag that up and over. Let's drop the transparency and let's have a look at how we went. So you can see here, it's gotten us out of the early part of 2009. Some of these drops. I think the things I'm looking for is sort of saying, is this an accurate way of giving an indication, totally objective on is the market up, is the market down? Stays in nicely through this period. We've got a few drawdowns here, or not drawdowns, down markets. Maybe we need to get out a little bit earlier. We could experiment with it and say, okay, let's just change that down value from 30 to 35. And you can see it's gotten us out earlier. So, I can play with this. I can tune this to whatever my needs are. Gee, that's interesting. This whole sideways market, it kept us out of, the breadth. And really what that's saying is we dropped below 35% of the market, of the S&P 500 stocks that were in a Gann swing uptrend. And so, or you could say 65% were in a downtrend, is the other way of looking at it. and we never peaked above our upper threshold to turn back on that condition. So it's probably whipsawed through the middle, but we were kept out of that. So it's a really powerful, nice way of being able to look at it. So that was 2015. January 2016 kept us out of that. And yeah, it keeps going up. So according to this, we are in an uptrend still. And there's not much evidence to suggest otherwise at the moment. So, you know, that's a really deep dive into Gann swing charts, looking at the scripting, looking at the way that we build up, you know, that whole process of using the show views and the show bars and getting an idea of how I'm going to build something like this. But then also then saying, well, hey, let's quantitatively test this. That signal, gee, it looks like it's got some merit. Let's start doing a bit more testing with it. Let's try and look at, based on how many signals, what my position size would need to be, and whether I can build a whole strategy out of that. But then also looking at breadth and market breadth, and it's such a powerful indicator as well. We've got a lot of these breadth calculations in the data source service that we have, the end of day data service. We may even see if we can add this in. I might do some more refining, and we may even add this into our breadth data service so that you don't need to go through all those steps if you don't want to. I certainly hope that's been helpful, giving you a deeper look at some of what Optima can do. You know, we'll let you know when we've got another Optima webinar available for you to watch. Thanks again.